Welcome back. I'm Sara Howe, one of your co-hosts of Connections by APNC. Today we have one of our own, our Director of Scholastic Recovery, Jarmichael Harris. This is perfect timing because we're getting ready to go back to school. Some of us are already on campuses right now, and Jarmichael's going to talk to us a little bit about that collegiate recovery environment and what does that all mean? Some of us know very well about collegiate recovery, and some of us have not heard that. But I gotta let you in on a little secret. North Carolina is the leader in collegiate recovery. We're really excited about that. So we're excited to have Jay here, talk to us a little bit more about what it means, how you can get involved, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Connections, the podcast from addiction professionals of North Carolina, where we explore the nuances of addiction and mental health through the lens of policy and practice.
We're your hosts,
Sara Howe
and Morgan Coiner, and we're here to help you see how it all connects. Today we have with us Jarmichael Harris. He's the Director of Scholastic Recovery here at APNC. Welcome, Jay.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for having me. It's so great.
Of course. It's fun to get to spotlight some of our own team as we talk to different people just across the state. So we're excited to get to talk to you and have you talk to all of our many listeners out there. So I would love for us to just get started with you talking a little bit about your role here at APNC. What do you do? What does it look like? And we'll start there.
All right. So as Director of Scholastic Recovery, I help to lead our North Carolina Higher Education Consortium, which is a kind of a two-part higher education supporting our AOD preventionists as well as recovery staff. Oftentimes that individual is the same person. And so being able to provide a holistic approach to supporting our students on our college campuses, while also helping the staff, oftentimes, again, only one or two people, build the capacities to do that. And APNC and InCheck, we work kind of hand in hand as a full-on continuum to really address those needs and ensuring that folks have their continuing education, have staying up on the trends of what's happening across the nation as far as substance use for our students, as well as new and innovative ways to support their support the prevention of that use and the recovery of that use at the same time. So that really leads us to every aspect or component of higher education in our state, from community colleges to our public institutions, as well as our independent or private institutions as well. So we keep our hands full in all of these things, but we have lots of support for APNC in doing so.
Jay, the state of North Carolina really has a long history of supporting these programs and really being a leader across the country. Can you give us just a little bit of background, how this came about, how North Carolina became a leader in collegiate recovery? I think we've got, more than 30, nearly 40 campuses now we support in some way. Tell us a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah. So collegiate recovery in particular is still a very new concept. But here in our state, we've been blessed to now be in our 10th year of state funding to support campuses starting back in 2014. And then right after that, the Stacey Matheson Foundation launched what they call the Transforming Youth Recovery, another nonprofit to truly support young people in recovery from alcohol and other drugs by providing these $10,000 seed grants. Out of that, these collegiate recovery communities that were created. I actually had the opportunity to help create or launched the first collegiate recovery community at ECU, is where I started before I was here at APNC. And I was only a graduate student. I had been working in the field for a couple of years and really enjoyed what I was doing, working with high school students in recovery or working with high school students in a treatment center. They were seeking recovery and the work was great, but I started to recognize some of the things that were holding our students back from being as successful as they could possibly be. So I was frustrated by that a little bit and really trying to figure out, what could be next? And then I was introduced to the concept of collegiate recovery, and a light bulb went off for me. Everything that I was doing at the treatment center, saying, hey, if I could figure out how to take some of these elements, not treatment in particular, but the life skills that we're teaching these young people and bring that to a college campus, then we might be able to make some real impact and change here in our state and at that time at ECU. As you can see the banner in the background there, I'm a huge ECU alum and always trying to figure out what I can do to give back. And so took these ideas, wrote an email to 5 or 6 folks that I thought could help me make this happen. Deans of students, the director of counseling, and someone else. But I sent a wild email of, hey, if anybody's out there listening, I have this idea. Let's see if we can make this happen. And it was actually right about this time in 2014. So literally about 10 years ago to the date, because now all those students are out on spring break or just getting back from spring break. And the response I received from those individuals was, hey, sounds like a great idea. Let's talk about it after spring break. And I walked away from that a little bit rejected and not really sure what to do with it. But I sat with it. And just a few months later, Pat McCoy shows up at ECU and says, hey, collegiate recovery is the wave of the future. Let's make this thing happen. And then I went back to find those emails and said, hey, you all remember me? And they invited me to participate in an internship with the counseling center. And majority of the internship was actually helping them to brainstorm what a collegiate recovery community might look like at ECU. And then I went on to serve in that role for 7 years.
So for our listeners, Jay, who are not familiar with collegiate recovery, or maybe even recovery, when you say these programs, what are they seeing? If a student says, I want to be part of a collegiate recovery program, we know many of them are very different per campus. But what are some of the things that they will absolutely get when they get embraced and engaged in a collegiate recovery program?
One of the things that is often said about college campuses is that a college campus is a recovery hostile environment. Like the idea of sex, drug, and rock and roll is what I always refer to it as when it comes to college campuses. You see this in our media, you see it in movies, TV shows, music. Not to give an overt plug, but the show Grownish was like a perfect example of what my college experience was like. And so I refer back to that often because, especially in season 1, when you talk about the first 6 weeks of a freshman's college experience, it was all there, right? Like the episodes of Grownish seemed to be pulled directly from the skits that we would do on our college campus to help our students visualize what types of scenarios they might encounter in their first couple of weeks on college campus. And so collegiate recovery communities really takes that idea and says, hey, we know that some of these things won't be completely avoided, but here are some supports and here are some people that you can turn to when you're needing help. Right? I go back to the idea of the high school students I was working with. And we would get those students excited. I would take them on tours. They go to games with me and all kind of stuff we would do. And they would get exposed to the college scene while also actually achieving in their academics for the first time in their lives for a lot of them, at least since their time of their youth. So now they're like, oh man, Jay, this is so awesome. I think I want to go to college. And you get that initial warm and fuzzy feeling of, oh man, I'm making a difference. These kids are really getting it. And then you have that flashback of all the things that happened at college. And you go, oh man, all right, look, I'm excited for you, but let's talk about what this really is going to look like. I want you to get involved when you get on campus, but don't join necessarily Greek life in your first semester. Like you can do Greek life if that works out for you down the road, but let's not do that in semester 1. Also, consider getting connected with your counseling center and know exactly where your tutoring center is and who to contact when you feel like you're in a bind. So I would have that conversation with high school students as they're going to college. What I did not realize was I was essentially teaching them how to build a collegiate recovery community. Now our campuses already have these programs in existence. And so if a student is leaving treatment or finding recovery very early in their life experience, 17, 18, 19 years old, instead of having to try to build out these supports, they're naturally embedded into the campus. And now all they have to do is send an email or reach out to say, hey, I would love to be a part of ECU Collegiate Recovery Community, or the Charlotte Recovery Program, or the UNCG Spartans for Recovery. It's there, right? You can Google it when you find it almost immediately. And so these are now the types of things that are happening all across our country. There's probably 150 or so programs that are associated with our national organization, the Association for Recovery and Higher Education. And I would dare say that there's probably twice as many as programs nationally as there are as a part of our national organization. And that's just by doing a quick survey of what we have going on in our state. Not every school is a member of our national organization for lots of different reasons. And so we know that these programs are continuing to find their way, even without necessarily joining a national organization like an ARHA.
I want to talk a little bit about how the social determinants of health fit in here, because I think you basically just told us, but I want us to get a little more explicit around this idea of, okay, when you're building a collegiate recovery community, you need to get plugged in here and make sure about tutoring. Like, how is getting tutoring going to help with my recovery? Like, how can you just maybe help us make some of those connections more explicit for our listeners? Like, how is all of this connected to recovery, and how do you see it on college campuses?
We have world-class gyms on our college campuses. Being at ECU, I had access to not one, but two gyms in two different locations. And depending on what I wanted to do or how I wanted to do it, I could pick and choose where I went to go work out. And if I wanted to just get outside and flip some tires and things of that nature, we had a park, essentially, an intramurals park that had some tires and things that you could flip as well. And so all the things that you could find all over your city, you can find essentially a 5 to 10 mile radius on your college campus at max. And a lot of times it's even more concentrated than that. Neighborhood and built environment, those are your residence halls and cafeterias, right? Dining halls. You have these things. You have access to work study and student jobs on your college campus as well, whether you're working as an residence hall associate, residence hall advisor, or you are working as an usher for the weekly events, right, at the theater on your campus, or what have you, right? There's always something to be involved in and do and get your economic needs met as well. Working as a front desk receptionist at the student health center that I talked about, or being a part of the academic advising center and answering the phones and setting appointments, being a tutor, right? There's different things there. And then the social context piece goes back to the many student organizations that are, connected to your campuses. At ECU, I'm sure there's probably over 500 now, not including club sports and everything else that you get involved in while you're pursuing your education, right? So it's all there. And collegiate recovery really helps to help individuals that might be lacking in one of these areas find their way as the staff member, as maybe the program coordinator or an advisor for your collegiate recovery community. It's your job to know where all of these elements are, help students connect, provide those warm handoffs, and also connect them with other students that are either in recovery, seeking recovery, or just choosing a lifestyle of abstinence for one reason or another. And so the idea of I drink or I smoke because all of my friends do and I don't know anyone else becomes less of an issue when you can have a program like a collegiate recovery community that can introduce you to 10 students that are actively pursuing an abstinence lifestyle. And so
it really feels like college campuses, as you explain this, Jay, it's really kind of full circle. When you look at everything that's on a college campus, in that context where you talk about social determinants of health, a college has everything that we want in a community of excellence. Yeah. Right? You've brought all of those pieces together in a very tight-knit community of either a very small campus of a couple thousand to some of our largest campuses, our UNC system, some of our really big campuses, but they're all communities that have each of these pieces that really, it comes full circle to think about when you leave those campuses, what kind of communities do you want to create? What did you see when you talk about the fact that you have a world-class rec center? You have the opportunity so you can work out, you can have fitness, you can have health opportunities, right? To make sure you're maintaining your physical health, which we know impacts your mental health,
Right.
as well as access to food. So you have cafeterias, you have access to social support, obviously you have education, cultural events. The campus is often the center of a cultural event. As you put in that perspective, I've not really thought of it this way before, but what we really need to be doing is mirroring what our campuses do around this country in our communities. So take a collegiate recovery program and then say, yes, there are individuals who are in recovery, or like you said, choose a lifestyle free from alcohol or drugs. And how do we support that choice? How do we support that recovery while integrating them into all of the pieces that we know make for a healthy community?
Right.
It's really fascinating for the state of North Carolina to invest in that, starting with 6 campuses and growing. Right. Do we have more than any other state in the union in terms of collegiate recovery programs?
Per capita, I would definitely think so.
Okay.
The state of Pennsylvania is running a close second, if not surpassing us currently, as they have a grant from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation. I'm trying to think. I can't remember the exact name at the moment, but they are they're in Southeast Pennsylvania, center right there in the Philadelphia metro area. And so they've committed over $1 million to supporting collegiate recovery in that specific area. And so
we have a bar set. We have a challenge, right? As we wrap up the conversation, we've got the challenge here to our state to keep going, our foundations.
Yeah, and this is the unique thing, though. I truly believe that every other state that has something like what Pennsylvania is doing has looked at North Carolina and seen what we've been able to do first.
Right.
And I think the fact that
we're definitely the leader.
And I think the fact that we not only have our public institutions funded and providing support, we also have community colleges. We also have all of our state-funded HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. So we're running the gamut, essentially. And what that has allowed us to do is being able to take a very in-depth look at how these programs work and how they work with different populations, right? Because no two programs are ever going to be alike. And we know that
it's important to adapt them to those communities.
Right. And we know that there are replication models out there that are great resources to getting an idea of what a program can look like. But every program is and should be as unique as the campuses that support them. I say this all the time, that I chose ECU because not only did it have the academic program I was looking for, it also had some of the things I was looking for after college. And I chose ECU initially on those parameters. But once I got to the campus and got to meet the students that were actively a part of the campus through orientation and other events that I got to participate in, I got to find the people who most felt like home to me. I was going away from home for the first time in my life for the next 4 years, essentially. And so I needed something that if I felt like I was going to be in a jam, I wouldn't feel like I was all alone. And thankfully, I found that at ECU. In our collegiate
that's a great sentiment when you think about these programs. You're not alone, and they support you in those times of need, which is amazing. So I know, Jay, we're running a little bit short on time because we could have this conversation for quite a while, but would love to maybe in the future too, maybe have some students from some of the different campuses and chat with them about the impact it's had on their lives. We'd love to be able to bring you back to do that in our next time that we're able to connect. I don't know if you have any final thoughts.
No, I just want to say thank you. I know you've been part of this work from fairly close to the beginning and have always been such a champion for it. And just want to say thank you for the work that you do. I know I'm lucky enough to get to work with you and see that greatness on a mostly daily basis, but we are very lucky to have you as part of the leadership on this effort. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
What a fantastic conversation with Jay. I could talk with him all day about college campuses. I gotta say, I love college, love my alma mater, and love seeing students that grow and the work that he does. And our team that works with Collegiate Recovery, God, they do such great, impactful things. I think what I took away from his conversation, though, is that a college is in the middle of a community. We cannot forget that college campuses are part of a community, and there are so many opportunities for our students. So why shouldn't there be opportunities for them to thrive in their recovery? And we need to remember that when we work with our students, and not just our students that are just leaving high school, but we have adult learners and community colleges as well that we need to support in this work. So many places we can take that. I'm so excited that you were here to listen to it today. Stay tuned for next week's episode.